This episode of Stacking the Box is brought to you by FanSided. Join our community of over 300 sites, from sports to pop culture and everything in between.
Welcome into Stacking the Box, the new and improved Stacking the Box with Jeff Schwartz, former NFL player. We got Matt Verderam, current NFL editor for fansided.com. I'm Josh Hill, the editorial director for fansided.com. We're going to be coming to you each and every week talking about the National Football League. And week one is in the books, so we're going to be giving you all of our biggest takeaways, our biggest surprises. We'll give you some best bets for next week. We'll also talk about some things that we're looking forward to seeing. Verderam talked to Jason Witten, current Dallas Cowboys tight end. He's free from the Monday Night Football booth, scoring touchdowns. And we're also going to be talking to Brad Weiss, the Oakland Raiders team site that we have. Just blog, baby. So all of that and more coming. But first, guys, week one is in the books. Biggest takeaways. Let's start with biggest surprises, actually, and it's the Cleveland Browns. What in the world happened? Verderam, Jeff, what?
Didn't expect them to lose by 30 points. Look, I thought the Titans getting 5.5 was a little bit generous. I thought, the Titans had a better record last year. They're an underrated team. They have a good defense. But I don't think anybody saw 43-13 coming or 18 penalties coming from Cleveland. 3 fourth-quarter interceptions from Baker Mayfield. Look, I've talked about this. We've talked about this all offseason long. The one question I have about the Browns, it has nothing to do with their talent. Who has the experience on that team that when things aren't going right, they can step up? And I didn't see anybody doing that on Sunday. Freddie Kitchens didn't do it. None of the players did it. And it resulted in a sloppy, ugly blowout loss in front of a lot of disappointed fans.
Look, I might be the only national writer, columnist, journalist, whatever you want to say, who picked the Titans to win this game. I picked them to win this game for many of the reasons that you just stated, Matt, is that the Browns, to me, all they did all offseason was talk, right? Baker Mayfield did as many interviews as he wanted. He argued with Colin Cowherd. All we heard about is him feeling dangerous. All we heard about was Freddie Kitchens and he's a player's coach, and the guys love him. And We've never seen Freddie Kitchens before as a head coach. We saw how much love he showed his team, and it led to 18 penalties, most since 1951 for that Browns team. We saw Baker Mayfield, who did not play well last year against the best defenses he played. Well, guess what? The Titans are a very good defense, and he played very poorly. No surprise there. The Browns last year did not beat, I don't think, any playoff teams last year, especially down the stretch. Oh, no, they did beat the Ravens once, I should say.
12-9.
Otherwise, down the stretch, they only beat the beat-up Panthers, the Falcons, the Bengals twice. So this was really no surprise to me. Now, the score is a little misleading, right? The game was 15-13 for, that was what it was for most of the game, obviously. Third quarter, then long screen pass goes for a touchdown for the Titans for Henry, and then obviously a pick six, and things got out of hand. But not very surprising. Now, that all that being said, I still think the Browns are going to win 9 games. It's a good wake-up call for them, but it's a reminder, too. The NFL has a unique way of humbling you. The Browns got humbled in week one because they would not be quiet in the offseason.
Now, I'm curious, your thoughts here, because to me, I watched the tape yesterday, and the one thing that stuck out, beyond the penalties, beyond the 3 picks in the fourth quarter from Mayfield, they couldn't block. Now, look, I know Greg Robinson got tossed in the second quarter. He got ejected. But that was the one big question going in about the Browns talent-wise. It was like, we know they've got skill position players coming out of their ears. Kareem Hunt will be back week 9 to add to that group. They couldn't block Tennessee. Now, that's a good front. But Tennessee made it look like child's play in that game.
Well, it's the problem for them is their offensive line is going to be an issue all year, right? They traded their second-best lineman for another defensive end, which you could argue they did not quite need. And it ended up costing them. Look, they can't block for Mayfield. Now, Mayfield is not as athletic as I think we give him credit for. He can move, obviously, in the pocket, but he's not a guy that's really going to break down and rush down the field when things aren't going very well. He held the ball very long yesterday. 2 days ago. He just felt very out of sorts. And, again, against the better defenses, he did not play well last year. That trend continues after week one. I don't know how good the Jets' defense is going to be on Monday night, but we'll see if that continues when he plays the Ravens this year or if the Steelers decide to play some better defense. But he's going to have a challenge this year when he plays his better teams.
Yeah, I have to commend the Browns, though, because they're going to play 15 more games after their season ended on Sunday. So that's really admirable that they're going to go back out there and give one to the fans like that. Speaking of the Ravens, let's move on to our next big surprise of week one, which was, Jeff, I think you were a big fan of Lamar Jackson this offseason. Oh, wait, no, I think the Ravens fans were coming for you on Sunday after he goes off for 5 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Is this the Lamar Jackson we're going to see the rest of the season, or is that kind of a fluke?
Well, it's kind of in the middle, I think. I think it's not a fluke because, look, the better teams and better players should beat up on the bad teams and bad players, right? I mean, I feel like there's this common thought, well, you cannot evaluate an offense in this game because the Dolphins are so bad. Yes, that's part of the equation, but also that's what good teams do, right? They kick the crap, I don't even know what I can say in this podcast, out of other teams, and that's what they did. Now, we look at that performance, and we say, look, they hit an RPO slant for 75 yards, right? They hit a deep bomb for 75 yards. Is that going to be their offense all the time? Probably not. The problem I have with this offense is I feel like it's not an offense you can win a Super Bowl with. It's a very limited offense. I mean, you play the better teams in the AFC, they can move the ball on their side of the offense, but also just play some better defense, better coaching. This offense is very limited. They're going to win one way. They're going to run the football and play action pass. And to me, I would not build your team around a very limited quarterback.
I don't have a ton to add to that, but I just got to throw out a couple of stats. And I know numbers can lie, despite what people say, but it has to be said. The Ravens in that game had 643 yards.
Yeah.
643. They also outrushed the Dolphins 265-21. I get the Dolphins weren't running a lot when they were down 42-3 in the second quarter. But still, look, the Dolphins got boat raced. I'm not a big, 0-16 type, but look, that team, if that team wins 2 games this year, it's an upset. I'm curious with Baltimore. Look, they're the 2-touchdown favorite this week. They play Arizona at home. Then week 3, they go to Arrowhead and they play Kansas City. That, to me, will tell me what I think about the Ravens moving forward.
Do the Ravens play the Raiders this year? I can't remember.
They do not.
They don't. Oh, well, maybe that would have been a win. Or maybe not, because
You
the
talking
Raiders.
Dolphins?
The Dolphins.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
Dolphins, week 16, they get the Bengals at home. That is their one win this season.
I like that. Wow. Speaking ill of the Bengals already, they went into Seattle and they almost won. Why aren't we putting respect on the Bengals? What is this? I don't know. But the Raiders. So let's move to them. They lose Antonio Brown after getting Antonio Brown and maybe not really having Antonio Brown. They kind of rented him for the offseason. I don't understand what those moves are. I'll give the Raiders credit, though, in that they cut bait when things started going bad. NFL teams, sports teams in general, don't really cut bait when things start to go south. They ride it out far longer than they probably should. But Antonio Brown is gone. Everybody's dogging the Raiders. And they go out and they win. They win their Monday Night Football, the last Monday Night Football game in Oakland, unless they return, maybe. But they beat the Broncos, a divisional game. So what was there to like about the Raiders? Is this just kind of like they played up to the moment? It was the last Monday night game? Or is there John Gruden, Derek Carr, they finally turned a corner? What's going on here?
Well, they scored 24 points. Let's not act like they put up 40 on the road against Jacksonville. But I will say this. They ended last season. I know the last game of the year wasn't very great, but they ended last season playing much better offense the last month of the year. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised their offense looked okay. I think the biggest surprise really was that Cole Miller, their left tackle, played really well against Von Miller and against Bradley Chubb. And so no surprise Trent Brown played well. But my biggest takeaway is their defense. And maybe it's a little bit of the Broncos and their conservative play calling, but Oakland's defense could use us 3 to rush the passer. And somehow they're able to really get after the Broncos here. So to me, it's not really the offensive takeaway. It's the takeaway is coming from the defense.
I was really impressed with Oakland's defense. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen week 2 against Kansas City. We'll get into that game a little bit later. But I thought Carr played very well. And I thought, as you mentioned, Colt Miller was terrific. He was not good as a rookie. They kept him at left tackle despite signing Trent Brown to a record-setting deal. The line looked good, even though they were without both their guards. Gabe Jackson's hurt coming off the MCL injury. Rich Incognito suspended for 1 more week. But I thought Carr played really well. Tyrell Williams, he looked like a legitimate player for them, which isn't shocking. I know throughout the offseason, going into free agency, had a couple different people in the league tell me, look, everybody's talking about Golden Tate. Tyrell Williams is the best receiver in free agency. And it was a limited class, but still, he did a nice job. My bigger takeaway from that game is, my God, if that's all they can do offensively, they're going to have a very long season. That is a tough division. Flacco, we know what we're getting out of him. You saw it there. He was very limited. Cortland Sutton played well, but that line is atrocious. Garrett Bowles is not good at left tackle, to say the least. And if Juwan James, who's an average right tackle in my opinion anyway, they overpaid for him. If he's not able to play for a little bit of time here with the knee injury,
right,
they're in dire straits.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the issue, is that Denver's personnel. And look, it's funny, John Elway, besides, signing Peyton Manning, what has he really done?
Nothing.
Drafted Paxton Lynch. That's what he's done.
Ooh, wow,
Yeah.
What a legacy.
It's not great.
Drafting Paxton
If he doesn't
Lynch.
have Peyton Manning, he's not there anymore. But he's a legacy in Denver. We all know Elway's going to get a ton of rope.
All right, so let's move south to Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys. Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator now, and Cowboys look pretty good. Dak Prescott, he's looking for a contract. Zeke Elliott just got paid. I mean, Jerry Jones just paid basically everybody on that team except Dak Prescott. But it was Prescott who looked most impressive, at least to me, with Kellen Moore's new offense. What do you guys think about what's going on deep in the heart of Texas?
Well, for me, it was about the style and rhythm of the play calling rather than really the results. I know the results came as well, but a lot of play action pass, 48% play action pass for Dak Prescott. They motioned a lot. They're 11 personnel a lot. And we saw just a brand new offense that had Dak throwing the ball more confidently, finding ways to get guys open into spaces, and using the speed of their wide receivers, Gallup and Cobb and Amari Cooper, obviously. And obviously, Jason Witten's not the speed guy, but just being a sure hands for some short intermediate passes. And they didn't really run into bad box counts, right? They didn't run into 8-man boxes. They really did a good job of making sure Zeke was able to get places without having a lot of guys in his way. And so I just thought it was the best game plan I've seen for Cowboys in quite a long time, and you should be really encouraged. I know it's the Giants. I get it. Same with the Ravens, I said, with the Dolphins. You should beat up on bad teams, but it's how they got to the plays, in my opinion, that was more important than actual results.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Dallas. As you said, look, they should beat the Giants. And they did. They hammered them, 35-17. They rolled up and down the field, especially as the game wore on. But my biggest takeaway is, look, Dak goes for 405 and 4 touchdowns. The knock on the Cowboys always is they've got a really good defense. Elliott, we know, can run the heck out of the ball. They've got that line. But can Dak make the plays come January that's going to get them over the hump? Now, I don't know the answer to that. He may still be the same guy he was last year, just had a really nice game. But the offense is different stylistically. And I also looked at that and said, man, if you're Jerry Jones, if you're Stephen Jones, hey, they're not running out of money. But at the same point, they had to be thinking to themselves, maybe we should have paid him prior to the season, because my contention was, look, when Wentz got $32 million a year and then Wilson got $35, that's your sweet spot. It's right there. He's gonna want more than Wentz. He's not going to be able to get more than Wilson. Well, if he goes out this year and throws for 35 touchdown passes, guess what? He's getting more than Russell Wilson, because then he's sitting there saying, well, Patrick Mahomes is about to get $40 million. So I'll wait for him to sign, and the ceiling goes up. The Cowboys made a crucial mistake, in my opinion, by not signing Dak. They should have signed him this offseason.
They should have paid the quarterback first, the wide receiver second, and the running back third. If you look at last season when Amari Cooper got there, Dak Prescott took off. And they should have taken care of those. And every single yard Dak throws this year adds another $1,000 onto the contract, maybe $10,000 on the contract. And they missed the opportunity. They should have just got this out of the way and been done with it.
You're always better off paying the quarterback early. Always.
Yes.
That's why, like I just mentioned Mahomes, that's why when Kansas City, when they're eligible to sign him to an extension this offseason, should be done immediately for as long as they can sign him for. Because as every contract happens, it becomes more and more of a bargain. The Cowboys waited too long. They're going to pay the price for that. They'll sign him. They'll get him. But it's going to cost them.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks who got paid, last one that we have here, Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. They win on Sunday. They beat up on the Falcons. But Kirk Cousins throws for 98 yards. He's got 8 passes, 10 attempts, $83 million invested in him. There's a lot of money. What is this sustainable? Like, what happens when the Vikings need him? What do you guys think about Kirk Cousins and his kind of performance against the Falcons?
Oh, they covered the 4. Seems to all that matters to me. So, look, they're going to rely a lot on the run game. Again, I think that I'm all for offensive lineman. Obviously, I love to run the football, but the metrics are showing you, and the analytics are showing you that designing a game plan solely around running the football and then hitting some shots, obviously, is not a way to win the Super Bowl. You just can't do that. So we need to see more from this Vikings offense. I get it. They played well in this game, and they won the game, which is most important. For those who into that thing, they covered the game as well. It's one of my favorite plays this week was Minnesota -4. But again, we need to still see more from that offense. But defensively, look, they're going to be good. I think they win the North. I'm high on the Vikings, not so high on the Bears. And I think that showed in week 1 kind of where I think these two teams are going.
Well, we're on the same wavelength with the Vikings and the Bears, for that matter. But for the Vikings, I also had them winning the North. I talked to Rick Spielman a few weeks ago for a column, and look, he told me explicitly the biggest additions we made this offseason had nothing to do with player talent. It was all about Rick Dennison and Gary Kubiak.
Yeah.
When they lost Tony Sparano tragically in training camp last year, they lost their run game coordinator. They lost all their ability for having pass sets and pass protection. They lost a lot in terms of how they were able to design that offense. And John DeFilippo, he specializes in the pass game. That's his bread and butter. So when Sparano passed, the Vikings, there was a game last year, and I might be 1 or 2 attempts off on this. It was against the Bills when they surprisingly got blown out.
Oh.
Cousins threw the ball 44 times in a row.
Too many.
I mean, crazy. This year, you're going to see a lot more Dalvin Cook. They're going to mix it up in the backfield. I really like the way the Vikings played. They mauled Atlanta up front on both sides of the ball. And this will be a very interesting test. Look, Green Bay, 10-3, a little bit of a slugfest in Chicago, a little bit of a rock fight. I'm much more interested to see how they play against Minnesota. The game's in Lambeau, but the Vikings, I believe, are a nightmare matchup for Green Bay.
Yeah. All right. We're picking our best bets of the week. Week 2, we're telling you who to bet money on. If you don't win anything, I mean, don't complain to us. I mean, you're the one that placed the bet. So
your money.
We're just giving you our
problem.
expert advice here. So Verderam, Jeff and myself, we both picked 2 games. Verderam, what is your first game, your first best bet
My
of
first
week 2?
best bet of week 2 is the Chiefs -8. The line moved down a point and a half after Oakland won. Look, I just think the Chiefs are going to score 35 to 40 points in a lot of games, if not almost all their games this year. They're so explosive. I don't think the Raiders can defend them. They don't have a great pass rush. Now, they did get pressure against Denver, but that offensive line is not Kansas City's offensive line. Jeff, you might know something about the right tackle in Kansas City.
Just a little bit.
He's decent. Look, I think the Chiefs will do everything they have to do to protect Mahomes in this game with that ankle. I know Tyreek Hill's all but out already for that game as he deals with his collarbone injury, but I just look at it. I think the Raiders played with a lot of emotion on Monday night. They were trying to to prove a point, rather, with Antonio Brown not being there. Yeah. It's a primetime game. It's a short week now, though, for them as well as they turn around. I think Kansas City goes out there and puts a pretty good beating on the Raiders. I don't think that the Raiders are stifled offensively. I think they're going to move the ball and score their points. I just see it being the kind of a game where the Chiefs win something like 41 to 27, something like that.
Jeff, what do you got for your...
This game feels very backdoor coverish for the Raiders, driving late in the game just to make this game, 7 points, 8 points, because the Chiefs' defense can't stop anybody. They allowed Gardner Minshew to get, over 200 yards passing.
It was not great.
88% completion percentage. And the Raiders, like I said, offensively, they can play. Look, I think to lay 9 on the road it's a bold move, buddy.
Hey, I believe in the offense. I mean, they just hung 40 on Jacksonville like they didn't even try.
It was great. I agree.
I don't know.
So
I feel like you're drinking the Kool-Aid there a little bit, Verderam.
Listen.
Nothing new. Anybody that listens to this knows you're a Chiefs fan. So
I am, but I've also lived in pain with them my entire life.
That's
so I
true.
typically,
You're putting money on it.
don't back them. I typically am ready for them to somehow screw everybody over. But in any event, I've got the Chiefs -8 in Oakland.
All right. Jeff, what do you got for your first best bet of week 2?
All right. So how about this stat right here? What happens when an NFL team covers by 18 or more points in week 1, like the Ravens and the Titans do? Since 2010, they've gone 4-16 against the spread in the following game. So along those same lines, which I know, Matt, we'll get to your pick in a second, which will follow this. Mine is the Colts +3 in Tennessee this weekend. Look, I think that the Colts really showed me something last weekend in San Diego or in Los Angeles, whatever. It doesn't matter where they played. They came back late in that game. Look, Brissett played exactly like I thought he would in this offense. His completion percentage is way up from his career. They're not hitting a lot of home runs. They're doing what the Eagles do, right? A little dink and dunk, take some shots. Offensive line really good. Marlon Mack really good. Defense played very good as well. Tennessee now high offense win against the Browns. Everyone's praised them. Again, I go back to the game. The Titans' offense wasn't very good.
No, it was a lot of yards after the catch.
So give me the Colts +3 as, feeling bad about the overtime loss in Tennessee.
I got to say, I'll throw in real quickly, watching that Colts-Chargers game, the Chargers need Denzel Perriman back in the worst way.
Oh, yeah.
Because with James out for 3 to 4 months, Perriman is that thumper inside. If they don't have him, they can't stop the run. Bosa and Ingram are great. They're not great run stuffers. Teams will run all day long up the middle, and we saw the Colts do it. Marlon Mack, I believe, 175 yards and a couple of touchdowns. So I share your optimism on the Colts. I think Brissett will keep them in a lot of games.
Yeah, I've got I'll do mine. I've got the Bengals and the 49ers. They are +1.5. I'm going with the Bengals. Give me the Bengals in this win. I think Andy Dalton's 10-4-1 against NFC teams, and I think when the Bengals in this Andy Dalton era, they're 9-6 against the spread. I also didn't hate what the Bengals did against the Seahawks. I mean, they're not playing, the Dolphins yet, so I can't bet against them quite yet. It's not the end of the season, but they go up to Seattle. It's a hostile environment. We all know the 12th man and the lore of that. Week ones are a little wonky because, you don't have film and everybody. Zach Taylor comes in. And you want to talk about a guy who really owned the moment. Here's a young head coach. Of all the head coaches hired, he was definitely a footnote, I think, to a lot of people. Not the sexiest name. Goes in there, almost wins. That controversial fumble, non-fumble call at the end of the game with Andy Dalton. They ultimately don't win in Seattle. But I do like them against the 49ers, and I dislike the 49ers against East Coast teams or Eastern Time Conference teams or time zone teams.
Time zone.
Conference time.
New
Whatever.
Conference in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. Look, we're just dividing up the maps here. We're doing everything new here. But I think the Bengals, they're like one, or the 49ers are 1-12 against NFC teams or teams against the in the Eastern Coast.
You're having issues with your geography. That being said, look, I'll stick with the geography theme. My second pick is Arizona, Baltimore. Baltimore favored by 13.5. And Jeff, to your point, you came up with that great stat about these teams that blow everybody out week 1, then they fall back week 2. I'm taking the Cardinals to cover. I don't think the Cardinals are that good. And I'm very concerned about their offensive line. There was one play, I'm sure everybody's seen, where the Cardinals guard sacked Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Sweezy, yeah.
It was not great. It was not how it's coached. That being said, the Cardinals gained a lot of confidence at the end of that game against Detroit. They come out with a 27-27 tie, but they were down 24-6 in the fourth quarter, which, by the way, that is just a fireball offense for Matt Patricia.
Lovely.
But moving on from it, look, I think the Cardinals are going to be able to do some things. Jimmy Smith is out for this game, sprained knee. The Ravens have a lot of missing pieces in the front seven. C.J. Mosley, gone. Zadarius Smith, gone. Terrell Suggs on the Cardinals. Yeah. He's going to be motivated. So I don't think the Cardinals win, but I do think they cover. That's a big number for a team that I know the Ravens scored 59 points in week 1. I don't expect them to put a big offensive output up every week, and I don't think they do it here. I think the Cardinals cover.
I would tend to agree with you here. I was hoping that you were going to take the Dolphins plus 18.5, but I guess we're quite not there yet. At 21.5, I might be all over the Dolphins. All right, my next pick, I like the under in Green Bay and Minnesota. Opened at 46. I believe now it's at 44.5. I grabbed right at 46, right when it came out. You have the Packers, obviously, offensively really struggle against a good defense in the Bears. Just really no rhythm, no flow. And look, not surprising under a new offense. As part of breaking a new offense, it's going to take a little bit longer to make it happen. Defensively, they played really, really well, which, look, again, not that big of a surprise. They've drafted well in that position. On that side of the ball, I should say, they've added a lot of depth on the defensive line. No surprise there. And you mentioned Minnesota. Look, the numbers were okay on offense, but just okay. Now they're on the road against a better defense. So give me the under here. You might want to grab it pretty soon before it slides a little bit further.
What do you think about that, Verderam?
So, I agree. I think Minnesota's going to win with defense. They're going to play a very ball control. We're going to run. We're going to play some defense. I know they gave Kirk Cousins $84 million, but I think they saw last year, if you let Kirk Cousins throw the ball 40 times a game, you're going to lose. You're going to lose more often than not. It's not, and frankly, look, that's not a knock just on him. That's a league-wide thing. If you throw the ball 40-plus times, you're probably losing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. My bet, give me the Chargers at the Lions. The Lions, they're not very good. 17 times in the last 5 years, they have been home dogs. It's kind of tough to be a home dog. It's kind of tough to be a Lion, too, I guess. 6-11 against the spread and straight up. That is the Lions. That is not good. Give me the Chargers. I don't care if they're coming all the way across the country from Los Angeles. It's, especially after what we just said about Matt Patricia and the Cardinals.
Not
really.
good.
You're betting on that. You're literally going to bet on that. I'm betting against that. Give me the Chargers on that one.
I'm normally all about the home opener and that meaning something for teams. I do think guys get up for it. Fans obviously get up for it. But man, you look at the Lions. Are you really? If you're a Detroit fan, you excited about that? You're excited about them coming home? You might prefer that they play that game in Los Angeles.
Yeah, the Chargers are 5-2 in their last 7 games against NFC teams. So heads up to that, Matt Patricia.
I might go bet this game right now.
Yeah, everybody should.
I was just like looking at the game, like I'm like you, Matt. I'm like, yeah, I like home dogs, but like the Lions are very good and the Chargers are good.
The Lions' schedule. Just throwing this out when we wrap up. The schedule for the next 5 weeks: home to the Chargers. At Philly, home to the Chiefs, Packers, Vikings.
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck winning any of those games.
Good night.
Good night and good luck.
All right, Verderam, I think you talked to Jason Witten.
I did talk to Jason Witten. He is partnering with Marriott. They have a sweepstakes going on, and he'll talk to all about that and the Cowboys, what's going on with his return, with Zeke, and with Dak. Jason was really insightful and really generous with his time. Jason Witten of the Dallas Cowboys here with us. And Jason, right off the bat, I want to ask you, I've read some things about that you have a game-changing friendship with Emmitt Smith, of course, Dallas Cowboys great running back, all-time NFL rushing leader. And I know that Courtyard is looking to have a similar friendship with a fan that they're going to be hosting the night prior to the Super Bowl at the stadium for a sleepover. Can you talk to me a little bit about both your friendship with Emmitt and the Courtyard promotion?
Yeah, well, I mean, Emmitt is my friend, and he would be a great experience for me if he was able to sleep over there. I mean, some of that greatness rub off on you would be a great experience. But yeah, I mean, Courtyard's the official hotel of the NFL, and it's a great contest for friends to be able to go in there and share their story, and who knows, they may get selected.
No, go ahead.
That'd just be a great experience for them, just like you said.
So now I want to talk to you a little bit about the Cowboys. Obviously, you're back on the team after 1 year in the Monday Night Football broadcast booth. And I'm curious, how hard of a decision was it for you to leave the booth after 1 year to go back to the field? And was there a moment, one singular instance where you said, you know what, I still got some more football in me?
Well, I think, you try to make the best decisions you can in real time of like, where am I going to go here? And when the Monday Night Football opportunity came up, I mean, I think a lot of us in that situations after playing 15 years would really have to consider something like that. Fairly early on, to answer your question, I realized there was something still burning inside me that I felt like I could give to a team, specifically the Cowboys, I think there's nothing like that feeling that you can have, and different than I think other guys as announcers, whether it would be an injury or things that come up that force you to make that decision. I didn't have that, and so I think as you go through it, you're trying to convince yourself, like, just give it time. But it was always kind of in the back of my mind of, man, I feel like I have something more I can give to a team, and I want to play. And so I'm thankful for that opportunity to now be able to get back out there on the field. A lot of work to get back, but I'm also thankful for the experience of Monday Night Football. The lessons I learned there. Got to see the league, bring back a different perspective coming back to the Cowboys.
What was that conversation like when you first talked to Jerry about, hey, I'm thinking about coming back. I have some interest in rejoining the Cowboys. I mean, was that something where, he was shocked? Was he not shocked at all? I mean, how did that go between you and Jerry Jones?
Well, no, he wasn't shocked. I mean, I think, one thing about Jerry Jones and that family is that, it's a true relationship they have with their players, certainly after you've been there 15 years. So I'd lean on him a lot, not just with that opportunity Monday Night Football, but other things over the years. And so I think he knew it was going to be a tough decision for me to go in the booth. And I think he respected it. Certainly he welcomed me back, thought I could help the team. And just was I willing to do that? Is that something that I wanted to do? And of course that was. So just very honest, direct conversations like you'd have with somebody you trust or somebody you looked at as a role model or mentor. And a lot of back and forth. Kind of told me the opposite of like, all right, you got to think through this or sleep on this tonight. And ultimately we came to the conclusion of let's go for it. And I appreciate the opportunity, appreciate the support, and hopefully I can bring him back one of those trophies he hasn't seen in a few years.
Jason, a couple more. I want to ask you about Ezekiel Elliott. And obviously he held out, wanted more money, wanted a new contract, got that contract and then some right before week one, was able to play. From a player's perspective, from a teammate's perspective, what are you guys thinking as that time's going on? Obviously, I'm sure you want him to get his money and get himself taken care of. But at the same point, he's such an integral part of the team. I'm sure you didn't want him to miss time. I mean, what is that push-pull for you as a teammate of his?
Well, I think early on, you understand the business of football. I wasn't as, I guess, concerned because, there's a lot of different types of holdouts. This one, the reason why I wasn't concerned was that, obviously he wanted to be here. He's a featured running back. He's led the league 2 out of 3 years in rushing. Got a great offensive line, team that drafted him. And, of course, the management, they wanted him here. So it wasn't like two teams like, are we going to get, cold feet here at the last hour? It was just a matter of coming to the right number. You hope that it was sooner than later when you're in camp. But I think there's so many things that's in it, the magnitude of the Dallas Cowboys. You better be able to be mentally tough and be able to kind of take the distractions out of it. And so this team's experiencing that, understanding that the lights are bright in Dallas. And so can't allow that to affect you. I was glad that he got the deal done. I thought he brought a lot of juice. I thought he looked good. And, he didn't have the yardage that he usually has and will have as the season unfolds. But I don't know that it was a byproduct of, not being in camp. I thought he looked good. He had a couple really nice runs. I think it was just Giants were committed to taking away our running game. They're big, strong, physical guys up front. And obviously we connected on the passing game. So he's a great player. I'm glad to see that worked out. And I think he's going to be having another one of his years where he's up there competing to lead the league in rushing.
Well, and you said it, Jason, like the passing game had no problems week one. Obviously, Dak, big game, 405 yards, 4 touchdown passes. He is also trying to get a new contract, hasn't quite secured it yet, although everybody expects it'll eventually happen.
Yeah.
What have you seen? I know you weren't with the Cowboys last year, on the team last year, but what have you seen in the maturation of Dak? And that you would argue statistically that might be the best game he's ever played, and this might be the best team that's ever been around him. What are you seeing as his tight end, as his teammate, as to why he might be taking that last step, that next step into that elite category?
Yeah, well, I think, when you talk about young quarterbacks and you talk about them taking that next step, that evolves and kind of it's a big picture that you're talking about. And I think it's those things that consist of a lot of different things, leadership, accuracy, in command, all those kind of things. And so for Dak, I just seen it all being produced at a high level. It starts with his leadership. He is the captain. He is the leader of the Dallas Cowboys. His teammates, coaching staff, support staff, they run through a wall for him. And that means a lot, especially at the QB1 spot. And I think he does a great job of that. But I just think he's in control of the entire offense. He's in command. He's seeing coverage. He knows where he wants to go with the ball. He's got a lot of confidence in his weapons. And, you saw it pay off there on Sunday. So I think it'll continue to play better and better and better. I think he is in that tier of those top quarterbacks.
Well, Jason, I really appreciate your time. Best of luck during the season, and best of luck with your partnership with Courtyard going forward.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot.
That was Jason Witten. I'd like to thank him for his time, for coming on the pod, talking to Verderam. Now, Verderam, it's a favorite segment of mine. You are an NFL insider. You have candlelight talks with GMs, players, everybody in between. I'm just a dork with a microphone who needs to learn a little bit more about football. So you educate me. Give it to me straight from the source. What are you hearing out there in the NFL landscape?
So a few different things. One is Jacksonville besieged by injuries, both in the preseason and certainly in week one. Nick Foles, biggest injury of the entire week across the NFL. He goes out with a broken collarbone. And look, it's a tough blow for Jacksonville, but I'll say this. You talk to people inside that situation around the team, they really believe in some of the young players here. Obviously, Gardner Minshew showed quite a bit. One guy who played well, and he was in and out of the lineup on Sunday, he had a little bit of a knee flare-up, and he had tore his meniscus in the preseason, so he's just coming back, was Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams is a converted safety and a linebacker, drafted in the 3rd round, They believe he's going to be a star there. He played well. And in the second half of that game, like they didn't have Miles Jack. Miles Jack foolishly got himself thrown out like a dope. And so nice job by him. Maybe the heat was too much, just wanted to go into the locker room. Either way, look, the injury's big. When they signed Nick Foles, they really felt like this is our guy moving forward. I know a lot of people looked at it as well. It's a bridge. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that internally they felt like, hey, Foles, he's not only better than Bortles, he's good. He's going to get us to where we want to go, get us in contention, get us on the path back to being in the AFC title game like we were a couple of years ago. Now he's out for what? At least 2.5 months. That's a crushing blow for the Jags to have first quarter of the first game of the season.
Yeah.
Look, the Foles thing is awful. I agree. He made the play got hurt on him. He made a fabulous throw.
Great throw.
For a touchdown. And look, Gardner Minshew as a 7th-round draft pick will have to learn, obviously, but he played a lot in the preseason, and that probably will benefit him moving forward.
Yeah, no question. And sticking in that game, to finish up this little quick segment here, Juan Thornhill is a guy that the Chiefs, both outside the building, inside the building, are extremely high on. I mean, you talk to anybody around Kansas City, they'll tell you, look, this kid's a player. I remember, hearing around the league back in May, back in June, we're talking OTAs, and there's a lot of false optimism at that. But there was a lot of, hey, this kid can play. He's gonna be a difference maker right away. Well, guess who led the team in tackles week 1? Now, have to also say, if a safety's leading the team in tackles, that's usually not great. That means that you're getting a lot of people into the backfield. But Thornhill was active. They moved him around. He's going to play a ton of free safety for the Chiefs, as he did week 1. But he played really, really well opposite Tyrann Mathieu. And you're going to see Steve Spagnuolo switch it up. You're going to see Dan Sorensen in there plenty. They're going to have a lot of different looks. But the creativity of Mathieu is opened up by, if Thornhill can play a solid free safety, a center field, if you will, then Mathieu can do a lot of what the Chiefs hope, which is make him that chess piece that Eric Berry used to be. So Thornhill passed his first test in Kansas City, as the Chiefs believed he would, with flying colors. He was one of the better players on that defense in Jacksonville.
Yeah, look, they can use all the defensive help they can get.
Yes, honestly. They can.
And if he can be that guy that can be the multi-tool for them on defense, that would be fabulous. It'd be a great draft pick.
Yeah. Verderam has been singing his praises all offseason long, so it's nice to see it pay off there. Verderam, straight from the source. That's exactly where I like to get it from. Thank you for educating me. I feel smarter.
It's
enlightening. It's an enlightening experience. All right, moving on to pick 6. We've each picked 6 things. Well, I'll total pick 6 things, 2 apiece, on what we're looking forward to in week 2. Verderam, what are you looking forward to? What do you think will happen? You're seeing into your crystal ball. What is week 2 doing for you?
I'm looking forward to the tension convention at MetLife on Monday night, because let me tell you, it's pretty rare you get a game in week 2 where both teams are really feeling the heat.
Oh, yeah.
The Jets and the Browns, both teams are feeling the heat. Look, it's a Monday night game. Mayfield's coming off that hideous performance. Jeff, you talked about at the top of the podcast. Look, all you heard out of Cleveland was noise. Mayfield's going after the Texas quarterback. Mayfield talking to GQ. Mayfield's running down everybody and their mother in the Giants organization. And then he goes out and he plays pretty bad football in the fourth, terrible football in the fourth quarter. Played okay the first 3, but it doesn't help you if you throw 3 picks in the fourth. The Jets, meanwhile, 16-0 lead against a Bills team that had 4 turnovers in the first half. They managed 6 points off that. And beyond just that, the Jets had 16 points, but they had a pick 6 and a safety in that game. So their offense did nothing. Darnold averaged just over 4 yards an attempt. Now you get the Browns coming in there. You got Greg Williams against his old team. I'm fascinated by that game. I think Cleveland will win. But I'll tell you, the pressure on both of those teams is through the roof this week, and I cannot wait to see. I think Cleveland bounces back, but boy, a ton of pressure, a ton of anxiety on both sides of the field there in MetLife.
Yeah, big time. Jeff, what do you think about that game?
Well, I was secretly hoping the Browns would beat the Titans, but not cover, of course, and then I'd be able to take the Jets like +6 in this game at home. That would have been fabulous. I do think, look, the Browns are the better team. They should win, but we do not know how they bounce back from adversity yet. We have yet to see that. So until I see that, I kind of will take the home team just for now. I might change my opinion before the game on Sunday. But the Jets are playing at home. They squandered a big opportunity. Unlike the Browns, who feel like they kind of got their butts kicked by the Titans, the Jets don't feel that way on Monday. They feel like we left the game out that we should have won. So give me the Jets at home on Monday Night Football.
I'm worried about Mosley and Quinton Williams too. I'm worried. How healthy are those guys? They both left the game.
That's a problem, yes.
Yeah, because that is like if there's one advantage the Jets should have in this game if they were healthy is that front seven should be able to handle the Browns' offensive line. I don't know if that's the case with Williams being out, but in any event, I can't wait for that game. That game is going to be fascinating because whoever loses, boy, they are going to be in a rough spot. The Browns, week 3, they play the Rams on Sunday Night Football. The Jets play New England. So whoever loses is probably staring at 0-3.
Yeah. Jeff, what are you looking at? What's your first pick 6 looking at week 2 in the NFL?
All right, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Are they going to go to 0-2 to start the year? I mean, after that performance the other day, I don't know. I thought the Steelers were going to win the North. That was my prediction. If they're going to win, to win the North, I really like them. But offensively, I don't know what that was against the Patriots. Is that the team that we expect without Antonio Brown? I thought the offense would be just fine without him. Are they really going to start 0-2? Because we know if you start 0-2 since like 1990, like 10% of teams make the playoffs. So starting 0-2 is going to be a big issue for them. Now, luckily for them, Seattle doesn't play as well on the road and on grass especially. But I don't know, man. Are the Steelers going to really go 0-2?
I'm with you. I picked them to win the North as well, so I guess we were thinking pretty similarly going into the season.
Yeah.
But actually, I want to ask you because I never played in the NFL. I didn't play in college, so let's just say you have a little more experience than I do in this regard. The Steelers' game plan, to me, was the most baffling part of their loss on Sunday. Look, I expected them to lose in New England, but they see New England pretty much every single year. Some years they've seen them two times with Tomlin there. And it just felt like just a cornucopia of just little toss plays to the outside, these underneath routes. Like, I get New England's got a good secondary, but that's not a great front seven in New England. You can do some things to them. And I thought the Steelers had a horrible game plan going into that. And I would expect that they would adjust before they play Seattle.
Well,
hopefully.
I think the Patriots, though, are just so multiple in defense. I think the Steelers probably thought they were getting one defense and got another defense. And that's what the tough part about playing the Patriots, right? We saw in the Super Bowl a team that's primarily single high man coverage team comes out in quarters, and the Rams were baffled. I mean, that's what New England does so well.
No, nobody plays a multiple defense like New England. You're right. I mean, most teams define themselves 3-4-4-3. Now, obviously, with sub packages now, it's a little more muddled than it has been. But still, teams have their identities, and there's no question. New England every week can reinvent itself.
Yeah. I'm throwing this one out to the room for my first pick 6 of the week. Mitchell Trubisky against the Denver Broncos. Vic Fangio is former defensive coordinator who's maybe seen him a few times in practice over the years.
Yes.
The Broncos, they lose to the Raiders. They're already playing with a vengeance in their belly because they just got embarrassed in a game that nobody thought that they were going to lose. Now they're going up against Mitchell Trubisky, and if Adrian Amos is able to call out plays, and I don't know if I necessarily believe that he was able to predict that interception play he had on Thursday night before it happened, but if he's able to know exactly what Mitchell Trubisky is doing, does he stand any chance against Fangio?
No, I don't think he's that good anyways.
He's not.
Nope.
He's not
So
good.
Accurate.
No, he doesn't. And look, I said the Bears weren't going to make the playoffs for a couple of reasons. One was because of Mitch Trubisky. And I got crapped on. I was right in week 1. I think it was most telling that Matt Nagy came out in week 1 with all year to prepare and came out with the most conservative game plan of all time. Mm-hmm. That tells you right there he did not trust Mr. Trubisky.
I don't think there's any question. We talked about it here. We're based, of course, in Chicago, and we were watching that game, and my immediate reaction was they have no faith in him. It is the most prepackaged 3-step, get the ball out, the ball goes here.
Bad.
I mean, you watch that game, and I was thinking to myself, now look, everybody in America who's a ravenous football fan is seeing this and realizing they have no confidence. The players sure as hell know that they have no confidence in Mitchell Trubisky, and the Packers know it. So I'm thinking now they got to go to Denver. Now, say whatever you want about Denver, Jeff. You play in the AFC West. That is a hard place to play.
Altitude itself,
the altitude's brutal. It's very loud. That is a hard place to get a win, even when Denver's not that good, as is the case this year. My big concern is, I look at it this way. Are you taking Trubisky against Fangio and that defense? Or are you taking Flacco against the Bears defense? Or are you just turning the channel and pretending it didn't happen? I find this game fascinating from the standpoint that somebody's got to score. I think the Bears will win because they're more talented, but I wouldn't be shocked in the least if they walk out of their 0-2.
Someone has to score. That's a great way to handicap a game.
That's not analysis that I'm looking for.
It is what it is, man.
No, I mean, it is.
They're both terrible
That's the
offensively.
thing. That's. I mean, it's accurate.
Kind of with you here.
So I'll go to another takeaway of mine. My other pick 6. I think the Dolphins are giving up 50 points for 2 weeks in a row. And I'll tell you what. Normally, I'd say even as bad as the Dolphins were, 600 yards plus to the Ravens, who are not a high-powered attack by any stretch.
No,
I would
now.
normally say, yeah, apparently now. I would normally say, look, you're going to get teams that just, if they get up big, they're going to run the ball. Has anyone seen Belichick with a lead? They're not just going to sit on the ball. The only thing that gives me a little pause is Brian Flores is across the way. They have a good relationship. You wonder if Bill says, look, I don't want to embarrass him. We're going to get out of here. We're going to do what we can. But that goes against everything that Belichick is, which is you play as hard as you can. They were up 33-3 with 6 seconds left and called timeout against Pittsburgh because he didn't like the way something looked on the field. That is the ultimate attention to detail. And frankly, even if they take their foot off the gas, I think New England's going to score 50 points in that game. Miami has no answer, and I mean none. I expect the New England hangs a 50 burger on them, and we're looking at perhaps the worst defense in NFL history here by the end of week 2.
I'm glad you mentioned this idea that they're going to take it easy on the Dolphins because they know the staff there. The Dolphins don't have the players to stop the Patriots, even if they are taking it easy. That's the problem.
No, I don't think there's any question. You look at that game, and it's okay. They have Xavier Howard and Minkah Fitzpatrick. That is it on both sides of the ball. I mean, you go down up and down the line. Their best receiver, their best weapon is probably Preston Williams, undrafted rookie free agent. Ugh. I mean, and I like him a lot, but that's speaking to what this is. By the way, just a quick aside. How are they not starting Josh Rosen? Is he that terrible?
Well, I think that he's going to get killed.
Oh, he's going to get killed. But how is he not starting? Like, you trade a second-round pick for him. Fitzpatrick's not the answer.
No.
No idea.
And Rosen, I still think Rosen's going to be the best. I want to believe that he's going to be the best quarterback out of all of the quarterbacks that were taken in his class because he's got that fire in his belly.
I don't know, man. I think Mayfield's got that locked down.
I don't know. I mean, after this first week, since that defined his entire career, his one game against the Titans is now all of a sudden his legacy. But Rosen's got that fire in his belly. He's the 9 mistakes before me guy. He's the Cardinals didn't want me and blew up the entire franchise.
I think Rosen will be okay if he gets to play, but he might be in the worst situation for a second-year quarterback ever. To be traded like he was, then have to obviously end up playing on a really bad team with no offensive line.
Two horrendous teams. I mean, the Cardinals had 2 offensive coordinators last year and a first-year head coach. Everybody gets fired. Then he goes to the Dolphins, first-year head coach, new offensive coordinator, obviously, Chad O'Shea. A train wreck, an absolute train wreck.
Yeah. Look, Lamar Jackson landed in the right system where he has Greg Roman now and he's got Harbaugh as the head coach. If he ends up anywhere else, I don't know if he's going to be handled properly. And I wonder if that's the case with Rosen. Because everybody, the default, especially with Antonio Brown this past week was, what if he ends up in New England? Josh Rosen in New England, that's with Belichick, that's incredible. But, I mean, it's a system thing.
Correct. He might end up there. That'd be tough to predict.
Yeah, that would be. By the way, speaking of the Patriots and Antonio Brown, is there a better team for Antonio Brown to assimilate himself into the Patriots offense than against a practice squad team in Miami on Sunday? Wow. Come on.
Oh, that is my next pick right here for what I think that happened this weekend. Antonio Brown is going to go off. I don't know how or why or what. I don't know how it's going to happen. He's just going to go off. He's going to try to prove a point that Oakland is going to miss him. He heard the chants last night. I'm sure he did. He's going to know the pressure's on him. He's going to go out and try to prove to Tom Brady that he can do it. And so I really think that we're going to see a big, big game out of Antonio Brown.
You are a betting man. If you had to bet, come the playoffs, are Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown Patriots and active players on the roster come, let's say, the divisional round, since they will not be in the wild card round?
Yes, I think they both are.
Okay.
Okay. What about you, Verderam?
I think one of them. Look, I'm rooting for Josh Gordon. How could you not be?
Right.
Like, obviously, I really want him to be there. Just there's not a track record that he'll be there for the whole season, so I'm concerned about that. I think Brown will be there. I think Brown will be there. I think he could be a complete sideshow behind the scenes, but the Pats will tamp that down like nobody's business. Now, whether or not that goes over well internally, who knows? Yeah. But I think he'll be there. I'll say this, though, and maybe I'm in the minority. I don't think it really changes my opinion of New England. I think New England was great to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like there's only one football. So to me, look, I think it adds, he's a great player. Yeah. I mean, it adds that dimension. But to me, I came into this season looking at the AFC and saying, it's New England and it's Kansas City. And those two teams, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be seeing each other in the AFC title game. And at that point, take your pick. I still feel that way, although I will say, New England right now, obviously, with the better defense, so that is the advantage currently.
Yeah. Sticking in the AFC, my next pick is the Colts and the Titans. That is going to be a battle for the AFC South soul, because we saw what we saw out of the Texans on Monday night, and as fantastic of an effort as it was from Deshaun Watson and company, a favorite of the show, Bill O'Brien, is still in charge, and we all saw what he did when he called a timeout to call a challenge, loses the challenge, so he loses the timeout on the challenge, and then he loses the timeout that he called. He loses 2 timeouts in the same one go at it. So there's your Week 1 Billo moment of the week. But the Colts and the Titans, Jeff, you said you're not sure if the Titans are a good team. The Colts, they didn't win, but they looked a little bit better than I thought a lot of people were going to think they were going to play without Andrew Luck. Now they look, with Nick Foles out and with the Texans with Bill O'Brien, they look like they might be the 2 best teams in the AFC. And this week, I think we're going to find out which of those 2 teams is going to take an early lead here.
I think you're right here. Look, the Bill O'Brien. Have you seen a quarterback in recent memory who's played better with a terrible coach, a terrible offensive line than Deshaun Watson?
Jeff, you just became an official member of the Stack and Box podcast.
God bless him.
We do this every week.
Like, imagine if he had Sean Payton or Andy Reid, Doug Peterson.
He's still my heart.
I mean, like, he'd be on the trajectory of a Hall of Fame. He might still have that type of career. Dude, he's an amazing passer.
Phenomenal.
So, look, the Colts, to me, their total dropped to 7.5 when Luck got hurt. I think they win over 7.5. But I'm not sure they're good enough to make the playoffs. I don't know if this game determines that. But obviously, if the Titans beat the Browns and the Colts in back-to-back weeks, they have to feel very good about where their team is at. If the Colts win this game, I think we're kind of looking at maybe a 9-win team out of the AFC South. But if the Titans win this game, I think we can look at maybe a 10 or 11-win team out of the AFC South. That's the Titans.
The Titans, I think, look, I'm not a big Mariota guy.
You're not?
Famously. For anyone who follows me on Twitter. Yeah, right. Or listens to this podcast. I'm not a Mariota guy, but I really like that team overall, especially when Taylor Lewan gets back after a suspension. But I have to pivot as well. Look, the Texans, since we're on the AFC South, you gave up. Okay, you used your first-round pick to draft Titus Howard.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a reach. Anybody in the league you talk to, I mean, just like, what? The second round, Max Sharping, guard. He has not played well to this point. It's a rookie. Let's give him time. But he's a second round rookie. But the point is, they invested first and second round picks in this line. They spent good money on Zach Fulton, who I would say, frankly, before Tunzel got there, was the best lineman they had. Then they, of course, make that crazy, enormous trade for Tunzel, 2 firsts and a second, and they give up 6 sacks. Now, not all of it's on the offensive line. Watson sometimes will not maneuver the pocket maybe the way he should, but at the end of the day, he gets hit over and over. And the Texans, my God, scheme something so he's not getting hit 25 times a game. It is unbelievable how bad O'Brien is as a head coach. And like I said, Jeff, we do this every week. Every week we look at them and say it's incompetence. Can you imagine if when the Chiefs moved up to 10 a few years ago, if they took Watson and the Texans took Mahomes, how different is the NFL? But they didn't. It's the way it shakes.
I mean, it's not much different. The Chiefs would still be very good, and the Texans would have Pat Mahomes behind a terrible offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I guess the better way to put it was, can you imagine how different their careers would be?
Oh,
Watson would be vying for the MVP every year, and Mahomes would still be a great player, but he would be in a flak jacket every week.
Yeah, Watson wouldn't be in an iron lung like he is right now. Like, come on. I feel so bad for that guy because that last drive that they put together against the Saints,
so good,
unbelievable.
That is it's tragic because that's what he could be if he was literally anywhere else.
And the worst part of that, other than the fact that you got the crap knocked out of him that game, they take the lead with like 34 seconds to go, and on the final offensive play, the Texans are in like a Hail Mary prevent.
Oh, dude.
Bill, they're not throwing a Hail Mary. What are you doing? It's just unbelievable.
So bad.
It's just atrocious.
It's not
to
good.
use a Verderamism. Atrocious. All right, Verderam, you talked to Brad Weiss of Just Blog Baby, a favorite of the site, a favorite of the network, a favorite of Raiders fans everywhere.
I did. So we did talk to Brad. He gave us his 3 best bets of the week. Brad does an excellent job on our Raiders site, also does our mock drafts every week. That is truly the Lord's work when you're doing mock drafts in week 1 and 2. But Brad does a great job for us, and he did a great job talking for a few minutes about his 3 favorite bets here for Stack the Box this week. Finally, we want to welcome in Brad Weiss, who does the mock drafts every single week on fanside.com and is also the site expert at Just Blog Baby, our Oakland Raiders site here at FanSided. And Brad, I want to get right into it. You're having a good day. The Raiders just beat Denver on Monday Night Football. The lines are already out for Tuesday for week 2's games. I'm curious, which lines stand out to you? And let's start with the first game. Who do you like on the gambling side of things?
I like the Los Angeles Chargers this week, definitely to cover against Detroit. I know they're on the road, but they're coming off a pretty emotional victory over Indianapolis. They're less than they're given less than 3 points, so I think that's a perfect spread for them. The way they looked, Austin Eckler, he stepped right in, and when it comes to the Lions, even as home dogs, they're like 6-11. They got the win taken out of their sails in that Arizona game last week. So they might come out a little flat, and I think the Chargers are just a better team at this point.
Yeah, brutal tie for the Lions. I want to say it was a loss. It felt like a loss, but somehow they ended up actually rallying in overtime to tie that thing up. But I agree with you. I think the Chargers probably go in there and handle business. So another game to get to, the Monday Night Football game. There's probably no game that the two teams have more pressure on them. Cleveland, the Jets. The Jets blow a 16-0 lead at home to the Bills. Obviously, Cleveland comes in with huge expectations and fall flat. 43-13 at home. They get waxed by Tennessee. How do you see that game playing out in primetime?
Well, I think Cleveland's going to bounce back in this one. I was actually at that Jets game on Sunday. And once C.J. Mosley went out, that defense looked lost. So if he's not able to go with that groin, those cornerbacks, the Jets have a serious issue over there. And OBJ is going to be coming back into New York. He's going to be fired up to have a big game. Baker Mayfield was born for the spotlight. When I last looked, it was only 2.5 points. I really think Cleveland comes in there, whacks the Jets, who now have a horrifying schedule ahead of them. There's a good opportunity. They lose Monday night. They're 0-6 to start this year.
Totally agree. Jets in a lot of trouble. Really needed that game against the Bills. Didn't get it. Found the way to lose. Lastly, for you go to the NFC side of things. Talk to me about the third and final bet that you really like this week.
I really like the Vikings getting the 2.5 points against Green Bay. I think Minnesota really had a statement win this past weekend. Kirk Cousins threw the ball 10 times. He said he hasn't thrown it that few times since Pop Warner. And Dalvin Cook looks like the running back who came out of Florida State. So I really think Minnesota, Green Bay, they played the Bears. It was Thursday night to open the season. Mitchell Trubisky looked awful. I think they were able to take advantage of a Bears team that was struggling to find their way there. But Minnesota looks legit. They look like the team that went to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. So I like Minnesota, and they're getting points. So,
yeah, road only 2.5. So Vegas actually thinks on neutral field the Vikings might be slightly better. Look, that's a game that whoever wins, it's early, but will be in the lead in the NFC North. So, Brad, want to thank you again. Really appreciate the time. And again, you can find everything with Brad on Just Blog Baby, the Raiders site where Brad runs things, and also check out his weekly mock drafts come up every Wednesday morning on fanside.com. So Brad, thanks again, and look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thanks, Matt. It's great talking to you.
All right, thanks, Brad, for coming on the show. Be sure to check out Just Blog Baby, even if you're not a Raiders fan. He puts together some good stuff. Like Verderam said, if you're putting together mock drafts this early in the season, that's the sign of a hustler right there. So check out Brad and Just Blog Baby.
Great character.
That's right. All right, guys. What is the one thing we're looking for in week 2 as we wrap up the show here? Verderam?
I want to see how some of these 0-1 teams that were expected to win or expected to be good, how do they bounce back? Well, we talked about a lot of them. We talked about the Browns. We talked about the Steelers. Those are a couple teams I'm certainly keeping my eye on. Then I'm also looking at Thursday night, Tampa, Carolina. Look,
Nobody's looking for that.
Not the bag on your Bucks, but I'm looking at the Panthers here. Oof. I think the Panthers are actually a pretty good team. They played the Rams tough. Yeah. Newton is still recovering from shoulder surgery and that foot injury he sustained up in New England in the preseason. Yep. If this is a Panthers team that can win 10 games, they've got to get right and beat Tampa Bay this week. I look at this game as an almost a must-win. And to stay in that division, Atlanta, look, you get Philly coming in Sunday Night Football. If you're the Falcons, that's a rough matchup. That is a very good front. Their center just went out for two months with a broken foot, Chris Lindstrom. Mm-hmm. This is a game, though, if you're the Falcons, it's gut check time. You've got to find a way to win this game. If one of those two teams falls to 0-2, and frankly, I expect Atlanta to fall to 0-2, that's very tough in a division with the Saints where they could run away and hide if they get rolling.
Yeah. Totally
agree. The NFC South, NFC South was a 57-yard field goal away from going 0-4 this weekend.
Yeah.
I think, to me, I want to see how the Browns bounce back. Even though I crushed them for the way they played in week 1, they're still a very interesting team to talk about and to cover. And I want to see how they bounce back. It would tell me a lot how they bounce back from adversity, of able to go into the Meadowlands and win this game on Monday night against the Jets.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how all of our week 1 overreactions were entirely wrong, because you've got the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Saints, and I believe it was there's somebody else in there. The Bears, I think, all lost week 1 last year. 3 of those 4 teams hosted playoff games at the end of the year. So for all of our Baker Mayfield and Browns hot takes, for all of us getting excited about the Raiders because they won, or the Chiefs because they scored 40 points, and because Verderam always gets excited about the Chiefs.
They're going to continue to score 40 points. I don't think that's an overly hot take. Carry on.
I don't think so either. But hey, you got real nervous when Patrick Mahomes started limping off the field. I heard a shriek from you I've never heard before. It was like a wounded animal.
I don't care. I'm man enough to admit it. I would have just broken down and cried if he had been taken off the field.
It was bad.
When he started limping off. Listen, as someone who's followed that team for 30 years, I was just expecting his leg to fall off. It was just, but then, came back out, taped up, got the job done. But in any event,
it all worked out all right.
It worked out okay.
Yeah, but Fitzmagic was a thing last year at the beginning of the season.
Not a thing this year.
Guess what happened to that? Look, week 1 is always weird. Kyler Murray doesn't even have a win or a loss yet in the NFL. So let's see what happens next week. And I'm really looking forward to how all of our overreactions were just completely wrong. But that's just me.
And lastly, we've got to say, of course, go to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast, Stacking the Box. Leave a like, leave a rating, leave a comment. You can follow all of us on Twitter. Obviously, Jeff, easy to find on Twitter as well, at Jeff Schwartz. I am at Matt Verderam. Good luck spelling that, Verderame.
It's on the screen.
Mr. Hill. Yeah, there it is. Beautiful. This is why the video team, we want to thank them real quick, too. Video team doing a great job with this, always cranking out the hits. But seriously, thank you so much for joining us this week. And we, of course, Hill and I would like to welcome Jeff. Who will be here for at least the duration of the season, hopefully a long time. We really appreciate his time and his insights. And so this is going to be a new and improved version of Stacking the Box. We're going to have a lot of fun this year. And if you're a Texans fan and you need to cope, we're here for you.
Prayers up. All right. Let's do it again next week, fellas.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Football is back, and FanSided has this season covered from every angle. We have a site dedicated to your favorite team, a wider look at the league with NFL Spin Zone, and a national perspective at fansided.com. No matter what your football fix is, Take your fandom to the next level with FanSided.